Today, we're diving into something really cool, a look behind the curtain at an experiment that might just change how we think about, well, thinking. What actually happens when AI goes from being just another tool to a real, genuine partner in a research lab? So let's just jump right in. When you picture a researcher, what do you see? Probably someone surrounded by stacks of books, right? A lone genius. But what if the lab of the future is totally different? What if it's a dynamic partnership between a human mind and multiple AIs, all working together to ask questions we couldn't even dream of tackling alone? All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll dig into what makes this lab a new kind of beast. Then we'll meet the team, and yes, that includes the AIs. We'll walk through their really unique three-step process, figure out what they actually produced, and finally, we'll get to the most important part, the irreplaceable role of the human keeping it all on track. Okay, first up, what makes this whole setup so special? You have to understand, the goal here wasn't to write some polished, perfect academic paper. Not at all. The whole thing was designed as an experiment, a snapshot of a completely new process in action. And this quote really gets to the heart of it. The focus wasn't on the answer, but on the process itself. The whole point was to see what would happen if you didn't just use AI to edit your work at the end, but you brought different models in as collaborators right from the very beginning. So who was actually on this team? Well, as you can probably guess, it wasn't your typical list of co-authors. This was a specially designed hybrid team with very specific roles for everyone involved. And check out how they divided up the work. The human was the director, the one setting the vision and keeping the whole project grounded. Then you have ChatGPT as the architect. Its job was to help structure the problem. And finally, Gemini was the generator, basically tasked with creating a full paper that the rest of the team could then analyze. Each one had a clear, distinct job that played off the others. So how did this team actually work together? I mean, they didn't just get in a room and brainstorm. No, it was a very deliberate, carefully planned three-step workflow. Step 1 was the groundwork. This is where the human and ChatGPT basically acted like architects, drawing up the blueprints for the project. Step 2 was generation. That's when they handed the plans over to Gemini and said, okay, build it. Write an entire paper from scratch. And then step 3, and this is my favorite part, is the review. The human and ChatGPT put on their critic hats and analyzed Gemini's work, almost like they were peer reviewing a paper for a journal. And that's the magic right there. It's this structured three-part dance of groundwork, generation, and review that turns this from just, typing prompts into an AI into a genuine mini research lab. It creates this incredible system of checks and balances between human insight and the raw processing power of AI. Okay, we've seen the process, we've met the team, but what did they actually make? Well, the final product isn't what you'd typically expect from a research project, and that is completely on purpose. What they ended up with is called a field note. And the best way to think about this is like a lab notebook, or maybe a dispatch from an explorer in a new land. It's not supposed to be a polished final theory. It's the raw record of the journey, really meant for the researcher's own future use. And when you put it side by side with a formal paper, the difference is just night and day. A formal paper is all about the polished, final argument you present to the world. A field note, it's all about the messy, complicated process. It's about tracking where ideas came from, even the AI-generated ones, and it intentionally leaves the loose ends hanging. It's a tool for thinking, not just a final statement. Which brings us to what is honestly the most important takeaway of this whole thing. In a lab packed with super powerful AIs, what is the human even there for? Well, it turns out they're there to do everything that actually matters most. This quote just perfectly sums up the entire philosophy here. Yes, the AI can do a ton of the heavy lifting, the drafting, the organizing, but it's always a collaboration. It is never a substitution for human judgment, creativity, and direction. So what does that look like in practice? Well, the human is the one who picks the big question to begin with. They're the one who has to interpret what the AI spits out, finding the signal in the noise. They ground the entire project, they provide that final synthesis, and, this is key, they have the wisdom to be honest and transparent about where the work still has gaps. So, you see, in the end, the real breakthrough here wasn't some new answer to a big philosophical question. The real innovation was the method itself. This whole experiment was about creating a new map for how to explore those questions in the first place. And that leaves us with a pretty mind-blowing final thought. If this model really works, if we can partner with AI to handle the huge, time-consuming work of drafting and structuring and summarizing, what does that free us up to do? What bigger, bolder, crazier questions can the human mind finally dare to ask? That's the door this new kind of research lab is kicking wide open.